Each year, countless individuals disappear from the face of the earth. Despite the help of family and friends, as well as the efforts of the police departments, some of these people are never found. Number 10. Melissa Ann Montoya is a Native American woman from New Mexico. The 42-year-old enrolled as a member of the Jicarilla Apache Nation Reserve. In 2001, she was living with her boyfriend in a secluded area of Colorado and was working on a nearby ranch. According to members of her family, the two had been involved in a tense relationship, which resulted in Melissa being too afraid to leave him. It was for this reason that her family offered her a place to stay. She declined this offer though, saying that she didn't want to be a burden to them. On the 9th of March of that year, Melissa headed out to the Apache House of Liquor, where a St. Patrick's Day party was being held. The local pub had been nicknamed the Zoo, located at 13605 US Highway 64 in Dulce. At the party, she met up with her younger cousin, and the two spoke at length for at least an hour. It sounded as though Melissa was getting ready to end her relationship with her boyfriend. Later that evening, she caught up to one of her friends. The two began talking when they were approached by a man who's believed to be Melissa's boyfriend. They got into a brief argument and the woman demanded some space. An hour later, the man approached again, instructing her that it was time to go. She walked out of the bar with the man following closely behind, and after this, Melissa was never seen or heard from again. As soon as the investigation began, the boyfriend was the first to be interviewed. During his interrogation, he claimed he wasn't at the bar that evening, but witnesses claimed to have seen him there. The man concluded that he knew nothing about his girlfriend's disappearance, and due to the lack of evidence, he couldn't be tied to any crime. Not long after, he passed away, and his Colorado home was found to have been burned. The authorities searched through what was left of the property but found no evidence of Melissa there. Within a month of her disappearance, the Jicarilla Apache Nation Police Department began to investigate the event as well, along with the BIA. The case saw slow movement though, and very little progress. It was as though the woman had fallen from the face of the earth. Earlier this year, attorney and friend of the missing woman, Darlene Gomez, received an email referring to remains that had been found in Dulce. The remains had actually been found 4 years prior and tested positive as female, but improved technology found that they were actually the remains of a Native American male. This meant that family, friends, and the community still had no answers about the missing woman. The raised hope was flushed out, and Melissa remained missing. Darlene has spent the last 2 decades fighting for answers in this case, but to no avail. The big smile and sweet nature of the missing woman continued to haunt the community, and family and friends described Melissa as being fierce, strong, and independent. At the time of her disappearance, she had black hair and brown eyes. She's said to be 5 feet and 7 inches tall, weighing around 155 pounds. According to the missing person database, Melissa is believed to have been wearing contact lenses, blue jeans, and brown boots when she vanished. Any information regarding the whereabouts of this missing woman should be directed to the Jicarilla Apache Nation Police at 575-759-3222. Number 9. 33-year-old Minnie Taylor is originally from Haynesville, Louisiana. She's known to most as Yvette, favoring her middle name. In 1999, she moved to El Dorado, Arkansas with her boyfriend and daughter. Due to life struggles, Minnie sent her daughter to live with her grandmother in Spring Hill, Louisiana, and then with her other grandmother in Haynesville. Minnie and her boyfriend were living in a duplex on School Street. The home was just 2 blocks away from Easy Mart, the location where she would last be seen. It was on the 26th of May in 2002 when Minnie was seen at the Easy Mart convenience store in the 400 block of West Hillsborough Street. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance remain unclear. No one knows if she left the area on foot or by vehicle. All that's certain is that the mother hasn't been seen or heard from since. Days later, a friend reported Minnie missing to the El Dorado Police Department, who stated that there was very little to go on with regard to the suspicious disappearance. They interviewed anyone and everyone that she knew, but found no key information or any new leads that would lead to her whereabouts. But strangely though, Minnie isn't the only one who's gone missing in the same area. Just 1 year later, a woman named Jascie Robinson disappeared from El Dorado. Both women are said to be of a similar build and were known to frequent the same area prior to their disappearances. It's uncertain if these missing person cases are related or not, but neither of them has been solved. Investigators believe that the woman may have met with foul play, but no concrete evidence has been produced to confirm or deny this suggestion. No persons of interest have been named either, leaving her case unsolved. Minnie's daughter graduated from high school in 2014 and still regularly checks in with the El Dorado police for any updates on her mother's case, but there still haven't been any. The disappearance was also brought up on Reddit in a subreddit called Grateful Doe. One user submitted an image of Minnie Taylor alongside a 2002 Pulaski County Jane Doe, but there was no match between the two, and she was ruled out as a possible identification for the unidentified victim. Minnie Taylor has been described as an African-American woman with black hair and brown eyes. At the time she went missing, she stood at a height of 5 feet 3 inches tall, weighing between 120 and 150 pounds. The only distinguishing characteristics listed in the case are the scars she has on both arms. At the time she went missing, Minnie was 27 years old and would now be 49. It isn't known what the missing woman was wearing at the time that she went missing. Any information regarding this case can be directed to the El Dorado Police Department at 870-881-4810. Number 8. The missing person case of Robert Wayne Connor remains one of the most frustrating disappearances in Claremont, North Carolina. 62-year-old Robert was living alone on a 200-acre property near US 70 East in Claremont. He was described as a very dependable individual, and according to family and friends, it was uncharacteristic of him to just vanish. On the night of the 18th of July, 2003, Robert was seen at the Boxcar Grill restaurant located on North Oxford Street. He'd been seen at the bar, but no one knew where he'd gone after this. 6 days later, the man's daughter was forced to report her father missing to the Catawba County Sheriff's Office when she was unable to make contact with him. An investigation was carried out, revealing an eerie atmosphere to the entire case. At Robert's home in the 4100 block of Highway 70, police found his vehicle in beloved Datsun named Rusty. The truck, though, had been parked in a strange place, and Rusty appeared hungry and frantic. The atmosphere wasn't helped when Robert's daughter found uncollected mail jutting out of the mailbox. They also discovered 14 unanswered messages on the answering machine, and his firearm, a .357 Magnum, was missing. The scene instilled a sense of uneasiness. Everything at the house was uncharacteristic. According to the Hickory Daily Record, the daughter explained that she believed her father had met with foul play, and that if he had been, there was a creek nearby that he could have hidden in. The creek that the woman was referring to was Lyle Creek, which was also thoroughly searched when Robert was reported missing, along with Connor Park and the surrounding areas. Despite the best search efforts, no clues were unearthed directing police to the man's whereabouts. 3 years later, though, they received an unexpected tip. This tip led them to a pond 3 miles from Robert's house and near Bunker Hill School. They searched the pond there but found nothing. The same year, the detectives involved in the investigation interviewed the last person to have seen the man prior to his vanishing, John Franklin Dixon. But nothing came of this interview, and no new crucial leads presented themselves. Robert was simply gone, his home disarranged, his dog alone, and no clues as to his whereabouts ever arose, declaring this missing person case the most frustrating in Claremont. Despite having no concrete evidence, police officers too believed that the man met with foul play. Robert's case was posted on the Facebook page of the Missing Person Cases Network and gained attention on Reddit. Many Reddit users who live or previously lived in the area pointed out possible areas where Robert could have ended up, including Little Mountain, situated near his home. Robert Connor is described as a Caucasian male who stands at a height of 6 feet and weighs around 210 pounds. At the time he went missing, he had gray, balding hair and a full beard. His eye color, though, has gone unspecified. Robert's casual wear includes a white t-shirt, overalls, and a hat. He was also known to wear a gold chain necklace with a gold nugget, a silver Timex, and a Citizen brand watch. Any information regarding the whereabouts of this missing man should be directed to the Catawba County Sheriff's Office at 828-465-8301. Number 7. Margaret Haddican-McEnroe was born on the 25th of August 1977 to Terry Deal in Livingston, Illinois. Her mother gave her up for adoption, and she found herself taken in by Aileen and Patrick Haddican. Margaret grew up to be the oldest of 4 adopted children in New Jersey. She later enlisted in the Army and completed her basic training at Fort Jackson in 2001. For another 2 years, she was stationed in the Army as a mechanic in Fort Riley, Kansas. During this time, she found her birth mother, and the two enjoyed a close relationship. In 1999, she was awarded a Valor Award as a volunteer firefighter for her rescue efforts in Bound Brook during Hurricane Floyd. In 2004, Margaret was discharged and ended up marrying her longtime friend, Timothy McEnroe. The couple had 2 children together, with an added daughter from a prior relationship. Margaret was living an eventful life. She was named a hero and was establishing a family of her own. Unfortunately, this progression would come to an abrupt end when she disappeared. It was the 9th of October 2006 when she and her husband found themselves engaged in a heated argument. This led to a report of domestic disturbance, but by the time the police arrived, Margaret had left for her parents' home. Later that evening, she returned to her residence in the Witchwood Way and Round Top Road areas of Warren Township, New Jersey. The following day, Margaret spoke with her best friend on a phone call between 8:30 and 9 that morning. After 1 p.m. that afternoon, Timothy left their home to go get some baby formula. He returned around 3 p.m. only to find that Margaret was gone. Their baby was still in her crib alone. Margaret didn't return that day, and she hasn't been seen or heard from since. 2 days later, Timothy alerted the Warren Township Police Department that his wife was missing, and not long after, an investigation ensued. It was found that she'd left her SUV behind, along with her cell phone, which had been broken during the previous night's argument. Timothy also reported that a bag topped with $11,000 worth of cash had also disappeared. Police searched the house but found no evidence of damage to the home. It didn't appear that Margaret had been forcibly removed or any signs of a struggle. Police discovered that her credit card was missing, but there was no activity on the account. The case grew cold, with no conclusive evidence arising. It was not until 6 weeks later that the police had a break in the case. It was Thanksgiving Day when a Warren police officer discovered an Army t-shirt on Dockwatch Hollow Road, just 1 mile from Margaret's home. The shirt was sent for analysis, but no crucial data came back. It was noted, though, that the shirt hadn't been weathered and showed no signs of being subjected to the elements. It was also determined that Margaret would often walk out of the home and return later on when she calmed down. But this time, though, she never came back. Police found no evidence of foul play in the disappearance, but family and friends don't believe that she would leave without telling anyone, and she certainly wouldn't leave her children behind. Margaret Haddican-McEnroe was 29 years old when she vanished. At the time, she was wearing her black BDU jacket, a gray US Navy sweatshirt, white checked pajama pants, socks, and white Nike tennis shoes. Margaret has been described as a Caucasian female with brown hair and brown eyes. At the time she went missing, she stood at a height of 5 feet and 2 inches tall and weighed around 110 pounds. Any information should be directed to the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office at 908-231-7100. Number 6. Philistin Saintcyr was born on the 20th of October in 1939 in Haiti. He lived for most of his life in Orlando, Florida. The 66-year-old had landed a job at a packing plant at Disney. He moved to Immokalee to be closer to the packing plant, where he would work for many years. 6 months after moving to the area, though, Philistin would mysteriously vanish. On the 26th of April in 2006, Philistin was taken to the NCH North Naples Hospital via air ambulance. The medical emergency, though, has gone unspecified, but his son, Colbert, did note that his father suffers from high blood pressure. The next morning, Philistin was released and he was given a cab voucher so that he could make it back home, which was 40 miles away. He hopped in the cab and they headed for Immokalee. Philistin couldn't speak English, and when they arrived in the area, he was unable to tell the cab driver where he lived. This prompted the driver to take him back to the hospital. The staff then directed him to a bus, which they said would take him home, but he never arrived there. Philistin was last seen at the bus stop on the 300 block of 7th Street North, but he was never seen or heard from again after this. The family was unable to make contact with the 66-year-old and subsequently reported him missing to the Collier County Sheriff's Department. Detectives suggested that he'd wandered off somewhere that day. He wasn't familiar with the area and may have been experiencing dementia. Philistin hadn't been diagnosed with dementia, though. This suggestion came from an incident report before his disappearance, explaining that he wasn't acting normal and that he may be an undiagnosed dementia victim. In May, the police received a tip. A witness claimed to have seen a man matching his description at the rail station in West Palm Beach. CCTV footage was retrieved from the station, and it appeared that the man who was seen in it was Philistin, but Colbert claimed that this was not his father. Colbert noted that his father often spoke about Haiti and how much he missed it, but he doesn't think that he would have gone back there. Philistin's DNA and dental records were later entered into the missing persons databases, but there's yet to be a match. Not much evidence has come about that could lead to the discovery of the missing man. Philistin Saintcyr has been described as an African American with black hair and brown eyes. He's only able to speak Haitian Creole and is known to be missing a few teeth. Philistin is said to be a height of 5 feet and 5 inches tall and weighs between 130 and 140 pounds. At the time he went missing, he was wearing a white and red striped shirt, green pants, black shoes, and a green ball cap. Any information regarding the circumstances surrounding this man's disappearance should be directed to the Collier County Sheriff's Department at 239-793-9300. Alternatively, tips can be directed to Crime Stoppers at 800-780-TIPS. Number 5. Andrew Gray Chapman, referred to as Andy, was 32 years old when he was living on Whitethorn Avenue in the Hilltop neighborhood located west of Columbus, Ohio. He had 2 roommates living with him, and in November of 2006, the 3 found out that their home was going to be turned into the bank due to foreclosure. For unknown reasons, Andy decided to keep this bit of information to himself and didn't tell his family about it. Andy's life had started to take a turn just 1 year prior, when his wife filed for divorce and took their young son with her. A year before that, he was involved in a car accident, which would initiate a substance addiction. But after spending some time in rehabilitation centers, he was able to overcome these issues and establish his life in Ohio. Andy was in constant contact with his mother and grandmother until his unfortunate disappearance. On the 6th of December, he made contact with his mother, Judy, and was said to be in a state of panic. He said that he needed to see her immediately, but she was sick and wasn't able to get to his house right away. 2 days later, she arrived at the home but found that it was empty. On the 8th of December in 2006, Andy was last seen at the house by neighbors who said that the occupants had moved out. Andy's car was still parked there, but he was nowhere to be found. He wasn't reported missing until a month later, in January of 2007. He missed a court date, alerting his family that something was wrong. But the following year, authorities closed the case without telling the family, on the assumption that he was running from legal issues. This mishandling may have been a crucial aspect of the entire missing person case. In 2013, it was reopened when investigators discovered that Andy's family hadn't heard from him at all. The missing man's sister, Amy, described her brother as a kind-hearted individual and a family man. Judy explained that her son was shy as a kid and enjoyed all kinds of sports, particularly baseball. Through some investigation, it was found that just a few months prior to the disappearance, Andy had requested money from his retirement fund. According to his family, he received a check amounting to $39,000. $14,000 of this amount was used to purchase a car, the same car that was left behind at the house. It was also this vehicle that had been transferred into a roommate's name without Andy's family even knowing it. Amy and Judy both believed that the disappearance had something to do with the car and the money that the man received. Suspicions grew, and investigators were unable to track down the rest of the money that Andy had taken out from his fund. The circumstances surrounding the disappearance are unclear, and Andy's whereabouts remain unknown. After all these years, the idea of foul play has begun to creep in. A reward of $4,800 is being offered to anyone who's seen Andy or who has information on where he may be. Andrew Chapman is described as a Caucasian male with brown hair and brown eyes. He stands at a height of 6 feet tall and weighs around 175 pounds. At the time he went missing, Andy wore eyeglasses and was sporting a mustache. It isn't certain what the man was wearing when he vanished, but he's known to wear large or extra large shirts and size 11 to 12 shoes. If anyone has information regarding the whereabouts of this missing person, they're asked to make contact with the Columbus Police Department at 614-645-4545. Number 4. Lisa Lee Chandler was born in March of 1963. She would later become the mother of 2 boys and moved into a house located on the 5500 block of Highway 34 North in Wolf, Texas. She'd been living here for around 20 years. Unexpectedly, though, Lisa would disappear. It was around 5 p.m. on the 23rd of September in 2007 when the 44-year-old was last seen at her Wolf City home. That day, she'd spoken with her mother, Marie, on the phone, saying that she was feeling unwell. Lisa told her mother that she had a doctor's appointment the next morning, prior to heading out to her mother's home in Starks, Louisiana, 6 hours away. But the woman would never make it to her mother's house, nor did she attend her doctor's appointment later that day. Lisa was known to be more stressed than usual at this time, and had been going through a divorce, but it was uncharacteristic of her to just leave without warning. The next day, Marie attempted to make contact with her daughter but was unable to get through to her. In a worried state, she drove out to her house only to find Lisa's vehicle still in the driveway and her beloved dog running around the yard. Marie made her way toward the house and found that the doors were unlocked. The windows had been left open and the TV was on. A pack of cigarettes, glasses, and a purse belonging to the mother of 2 were left on the table. Marie opted to call the Hunt County Sheriff's Office that afternoon and reported her daughter missing. The police came through with sniffer dogs who were able to track the smell south of the Wolf City home. The scent led the search along the highway towards Greenville. This went on for 5 miles before abruptly stopping. At this point, handlers believed that Lisa had been picked up by a motorist because the scent would stop at a certain point. Ground and air search efforts were carried out in the 1,500 acres surrounding the woman's home, but no clues revealing her location were found. One person of interest was located, but it hasn't been confirmed whether any evidence has been tied to this individual. Marie explained that the 2 had been speaking on the phone almost the whole day, ending their call at 3 p.m. After no new clues emerged, she contacted a few of Lisa's friends, but none of them had seen her either. In the days following, the Hunt County Sheriff's Office made use of helicopter searches equipped with infrared heat detecting technology. These searches, though, proved futile. Sergeant Haynes suggested that the woman did not leave on her own accord that day and indicated that they needed the help of the community if they were to find the missing woman. The oldest son, Chris, who's in college, explained that the ordeal has been a roller coaster for both him and his brother. Lisa Chandler's case has been classified as endangered missing, and it remains unsolved. She's described as a Caucasian woman with brown hair and hazel eyes. She stands at a height of 5 feet and 6 inches tall and weighs around 110 pounds. Lisa has an obvious scar on her upper lip as well as on her shin. She also has a chickenpox scar beside her left eye. No one knows what she was wearing on the day she vanished, or what she may have taken with her. Any helpful information regarding this disappearance can be directed to the Hunt County Sheriff's Office at 903-453-6800. Number 3. It was the 7th of April in 2008 when Jascie Kaywaykla, known to most as Hope, was heading to 38th and Cache Road in Lawton, Oklahoma. Her sister was dropping her off at the local Kmart for a job orientation. Later that day, another family member arrived at that same location to pick Jascie up, but she wasn't there. After a brief look around the area, it was concluded that Hope was missing. That morning was the last time that the woman had been seen. It's unknown if she did attend the orientation, or if she even made it into the store. Panic ensued when no one was able to get a hold of the 19-year-old, and she was subsequently reported missing to the Lawton police. Not much has been disclosed relating to the missing woman's life or her behavior at the time of the disappearance. Ever since the event took place, there's been no update on the case. No crucial evidence was unearthed, and no clues pointed family, friends, or the authorities in the right direction. Since 2017, the family has been working closely with the Southwest Oklahoma chapter of MMIW in an effort to shed light on Hope's disappearance. DNA samples and fingerprint information have been submitted into the database, but no matches have since come about. On the 7th of April in 2022, everyone who knew the missing woman gathered together in honor of Hope. They do this each year to continue raising awareness and to keep interest in the case, in hopes that someone comes forward with information. Jascie Kaywaykla is a Native American woman, one among the hundreds who have disappeared. These disappearances have prompted the IDA bill, which was passed in 2022. The bill and a red alert system allow for an immediate alert to be issued when any Indigenous man, woman, or child disappears. She was born in 1988 with brown hair and brown eyes. She's said to stand at a height of 5'3", weighing around 115 to 125 pounds. Hope had also enrolled in the Comanche Nation. Any information that could lead to the whereabouts of Hope should be directed to the Lawton Police Department at 580-581-3240, with case number 2008-04257. Number 2. Robert Merle Harrod, also referred to as Bob, was born in January of 1928. He would go on to marry Georgia, with whom he would have 3 daughters. In 2002, the family moved from Monrovia to Placentia, California. Following his wife's passing in 2008 due to a prolonged illness, Robert would reconnect with the woman he'd once been engaged to prior to the Korean War. Her name was Fontel Heater, and they separated when he joined the military. In June of 2009, the reconnected couple got married in Fullerton County Courthouse. The newlyweds were planning on moving to Robert's Placentia home in Orange County. At this time, he owned quite a few properties and other assets that were estimated to be worth around $5 million. But something unexpected would occur that ruined the couple's plans and ultimately left behind 3 daughters, a grandson, and 3 great-grandchildren. It was Robert's disappearance. On the 27th of July in 2009, he'd been at the 522 Carnation Drive residence where he and his son-in-law had been doing some repairs. The repairs were in preparation for the arrival of his new wife. Around 2:30 that afternoon, Robert's son-in-law headed off to Home Depot. He was going out to get some more supplies. He returned to the property just 1 hour later, only to find Robert's maid standing on the porch. She'd been waiting there for quite some time. The front door to the house had been locked, so the son-in-law and maid entered through the back. Upon entering, though, they were met with a deafening silence. Robert's presence had been replaced with an eerie atmosphere. He was gone. That night, after the man still hadn't shown up, the family contacted the police and reported that he was missing. At the time, Fontel had returned home to pack up some of her things in Missouri and was scheduled to arrive at Placentia 2 days later. Investigators searched the house and found that Robert's keys and wallet had vanished along with him, but he left behind a gold 1997 Toyota Camry as well as his reading glasses. There has since been no activity on his bank accounts or credit cards. Detectives found a few notes that were indicative that he was planning on putting his new wife's name on many of the accounts. Following his disappearance, a dispute would ensue between Fontel and Robert's daughters over the estate. In August of that year, 2 of the daughters announced a petition for conservatorship in an effort to gain control of their father's missing assets. This effort would be to free up some money so that a reward could be offered for any information that leads to the whereabouts of the missing man. As recently as 2019, 2 people were arrested in connection with the vanishing, but were released soon after due to a lack of evidence and a pending investigation. The family had initially suspected the barber of being involved, but the investigators couldn't substantiate these claims. Detectives found no evidence of foul play in the disappearance, and a $50,000 reward was put on the table for anyone who had any information on the vanishing or information that would lead to the arrest or conviction of the person responsible. At the time of his disappearance, Robert Merle Harrod was 81 years old. He's described as a Caucasian male whose hair is partially gray and has a balding top. He also has blue eyes, stood at a height of 5 feet and 11 inches, and weighed around 160 pounds. If anyone has any information regarding this disappearance, they're asked to make contact with the Placentia Police Department at 714-993-8168. Number 1. 51-year-old Richard Strong met Darlene in the early 2000s. They were introduced through a friend and immediately hit it off. They got married in 2004, and things went so well that they decided to adopt a child together after a couple of years. But before the adoption process could even be completed, an unforeseen circumstance would arise. Richard disappeared. He and Darlene were living together in Kentucky. They'd last spoken around 3 in the afternoon on the 18th of February, 2011. Richard told his beloved wife that he was dropping a neighbor off at his house. Later that evening, the man would meet up with a group of friends at a campsite located on top of a strip mine near Highway 899 in Raven, Kentucky. According to witnesses, he'd gotten into an altercation with another person at the campsite, after which he walked off into the night. This would be the last known sighting of Richard. That same night, Darlene was met with a panicked face at the door of her home. The panicked individual explained that the woman's husband had been hurt, prompting Darlene to contact the authorities. It was during this phone call that she would alert them to the idea that her husband was missing. The ordeal was taken seriously, and a search was immediately launched. Police headed to the campgrounds, which by this point was smothered in fog, making it difficult to see anything at all. For this reason, the search was postponed. The next day, when the search for Richard Strong ensued, investigators discovered his truck. It was stopped on a hill past marker 9 on Highway 899, just a few miles from the site. It was never clarified what condition the vehicle was in. All that was certain was that Richard was nowhere near the truck. There were no signs of him, and investigators soon found that there was also no evidence that the man was there in the first place, aside from the testimonies of eyewitnesses. The lead detective at the time was Chris Collins with the Kentucky State Police. He interviewed everyone who was on the grounds that evening and discovered that Richard had been accused of stealing a wallet. This accusation would lead to the altercation that sent the man on his way, subsequently vanishing into the trees. Collins, though, didn't believe that he was given the full story of what had happened that evening. Each witness relayed the same story, some of which had seen the missing man go back to his car. The investigation into the man's disappearance grew colder and colder. There was little information that could lead to the man's discovery, and one by one, the campsite members began to pass away, taking the secret of what had happened that evening along with them. Darlene described this eventful night as purely awful, and she never gave up looking for her beloved husband. Richard Strong has been described as a Caucasian male with brown hair and blue eyes. At the time he went missing, Richard was just over 6 feet tall and weighed between 200 and 230 pounds. Distinguishing factors included iron rods that were placed in both his right leg and right arm. He also has a tattoo of a chihuahua with the name Tiffany beneath it on his arm. Any information that could lead to the whereabouts of Richard Strong should be directed to the Kentucky State Police, who can be reached at 606-435-6069. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.